Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. Today we will discuss about radicalization in Pakistan. A few days back, radical cleric Khadim Hussain Rizvi passed away in Pakistan and lakhs of people turned up to attend his funeral despite coronavirus protocols. Rizvi was the same person who led huge protests in Pakistan against France over Prophet Muhammad's cartoons and advocated nuclear attack against France. The huge turnout of people at his funeral is being seen with concern by many Pakistanis who feel it reflects growing radicalization in the country and is a ticking bomb. Many see this radicalization linked to terrorism, of which India is a victim. In the agenda today, we will discuss about this scenario and its implications. We have with us expert on geostrategic affairs, Mr. Jitendra Kumar Oja. We are also joined by Shahid Raza from Pakistan. Raza is a journalist and expert on geostrategic affairs, and he will give us his assessment about the situation in that country. But before we begin our conversation, let's have a look at this small report.
Lakhs of people converged in Lahore recently to attend funeral of radical Pakistani cleric Khadim Hussain Rizvi, who was strongly advocating violence against France, including nuking the country over the controversy related to Prophet Muhammad cartoons. Rizvi, the leader of Tehreek-e-Labaik Pakistan, died on November 19, close on the heels of leading huge rallies against France over President Emmanuel Macron's defense of his country's freedom of speech in wake of the killing of a teacher who had shown caricatures of Prophet Muhammad in his class. Pakistani activists and thinkers, while posting videos of the funeral, voiced concern over such huge following for an extremist, wondering whether it was the same country envisioned by founder M.H. Jinnah. One of those who raised their voice was a political activist, Tabina Khan, who tweeted, "Meanwhile, under our government's nose, a massive funeral was held today for a cleric who justified vigilant killing to avenge blasphemy and demanded France be nuked. Our army's exploitation of Islamic institutions from Zia era on turned theological conflicts into ticking time bombs." Social activist Asad Ali too tweeted, "How we lost Jinnah's Pakistan. Terrifying to see how many people radicalized by Khadim Rizvi and state of Pakistan happily allowed them to offer funeral at a place where 80 years ago leadership of Muslim League gathered and first time unveiled plan of foundation of a Muslim state. General Ziaul Haq was a military leader who had seized power in a coup in 1977 by overthrowing the elected government of Z.A. Bhutto and led the country toward extreme radicalization. Since then, Pakistan's all-powerful military has been using Maulvis to radicalize people as it helps in easy enrollment for terrorism, of which India is a victim. However, if the same trend continues, Pakistan will be in serious crisis and that will have impact on the rest of the world too." Bureau Report.
Let's welcome our guests, Mr. Jitendra Kumar Oja and Mr. Shahid Raza from Pakistan. Welcome to the program. My first question is to Shahid Raza, since you are in Pakistan. So we are referring to the funeral attended by lakhs of people of cleric Khadim Rizvi recently. I mean, many Pakistanis I note that have expressed concern over so many people turning out at the funeral of a radical cleric. How do you see that situation, Raza?
Okay, look, this situation is obviously not as simple as some sources in Pakistani media have portrayed it to be. So the first thing everyone in your audience needs to understand is that this particular event, it was a funeral. It was not a political event, it was not a religious event, it was a funeral. So let's just start a debate from a very reasonable point of view. And if you look back at Pakistan's history in let's say 30-40 years, we have this tradition of having mass funerals. So Khadim Rizvi's funeral is not really the first mass funeral where hundreds of thousands of people have turned up to show solidarity or to attend that prayer. So from my point of view, this is nothing new in Pakistan, and obviously there are some authors in Pakistan who have portrayed it in a political, religious aspect. In my perspective, that is not true. This was just a funeral, and obviously, if anybody wants to draw that, the parallel to radicalism or any other theory, I don't buy it because in this particular event, I don't feel that only Khadim Hussain Rizvi's followers were attending this funeral. There were many people from general public from Lahore and other adjacent areas who turned up to attend this funeral. And mind you, Khadim Rizvi was not just only active in politics. He was a religious figure, so he had hundreds of thousands of followers. So I believe that it is quite natural for people in Pakistan, especially his own followers, to have attended his last rites. And this is the case in India as well. If key religious figure passes away, most of the time it can be expected that a lot of people will turn out. So I don't feel that the people who are drawing parallels with regarding radicalism and this particular event, I don't feel that is a justified comparison.
No, you are Raza. You have a point that it was a funeral and many people wanted to attend it. That point is given, but I am not. I have noted concerns expressed by Pakistanis themselves. Some people have said that it's a ticking bomb, and some people have noted that it is not Jinnah's Pakistan, which Jinnah had envisioned. So, what do you say on that?
Look, I understand what you're saying, and I have also been reading the same kind of opinions in Pakistan that a lot of people are saying that, okay, this is a display of radicalism, this is, this or that. But let me bring you back to other, side of the story. First of all, Maulana Khadim Rizvi came into the political just a few years ago. Okay, so when he launched the political movement against the sitting government of Nawaz Sharif, based on a law that Nawaz Sharif had amended, and a lot of people in Pakistan were outraged by that particular amendment in the law because it, touched upon some very sensitive religious, sentiments in Pakistan. So there was a popular movement against the Sharif government at that time, which was led by Khadim Hussain Rizvi. And if you go past that particular period, there is no political history of Khadim Hussain Rizvi. He was just a normal religious preacher. And another thing that I would like to, explain to your followers or your viewers is that for the sake of clarity, Khadim Hussain Rizvi has no history of violence. Okay, he has no history of any radical violence or terrorism or any other that sort. There are a lot of religious preachers who preach hate or they preach violence or they preach,
But Raza, if I may interject here, you say that he has no history of violence, but he is the one who was advocating that France should be attacked with a nuclear weapon. So he was calling people to, attack, and he was preaching violence against France.
Look, I would agree with you. I have read those statements, and as a student of political science, I think that's a very foolish, thing to say for a man who was followed by millions of people. But I wouldn't agree with that. He made certain statements about nuclear weapons, etc. But let me bring you back with talking about or boasting about use of nuclear weapons is nothing new in South Asia. I can bring you back and I can, list a number of people in Pakistan, I can list a number of people in India, who have advocated the use of nuclear weapons on public forums. And, that includes public office holders in India and public office holders in Pakistan. For the sake of this debate, I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is that this is a very unfortunate culture that, public speakers in South Asia, and I'm using South Asia as a general term here, in Pakistan and in India, they advocate the use of nuclear weapons. But we have to again come back and assess this statement on as realistic terms, because Khadim Rizvi is not a public office holder. He has no influence whatsoever on the use of nuclear weapons or on Pakistan's command and control policies. Obviously, the statement itself can be, as I've said, foolish at best, but it would have no tangible, realistic effect on the nuclear dynamics.
Okay, Raza, I'll come back to you. We have Mr. Oja also from India. He is an expert on geostrategy affairs. Mr. Oja, you heard what Raza said, and we also saw how Khadim Rizvi's funeral, who was preaching nuclear attack against France. So many lakhs of people came out, and I mean, some Pakistanis are concerned that it is a ticking bomb. What do you say on that?
Pakistan, I have always considered it's an artificial creation, and including great Mr. Jinnah, he was nothing more than a pet crony of British imperialism. So this artificial creation, Mr. Ajay, this has been threatening Hindus, this has been threatening Sikhs, this has been threatening the South Asia, and the West was not bothered. But successive criminalized syndicates which have ruled Pakistan, look, there is no democracy in Pakistan as such, there is no popular will. Both Islamic radicalism and military might has been used to hoodwink and con people of that territory which is named Pakistan. And it is laxity of the West that they managed to nuclear weapons, and they have now started blackmailing the entire world. It's a poison or bomb which has been created for entire mankind, I would say. And I hope that people who are there in Pakistan, that think about living a decent life for themselves. Anywhere there's terror attack, Pakistan is involved. Radicalism, what people of Pakistan can talk about radicalism? There was one governor called Salman Taseer 2 years back, nearly 10 years back. He just uttered a word against blasphemy, and he was killed by his own bodyguard. And there were 20 to 23 people, other bodyguards. None of them tried to look. This is a serious threat which has been created for mankind, which has been created by the West. And these people who are ruling Pakistan, they are doing a business terrorism, they are doing a business in organized crime, and they are hoodwinking people of Pakistan by feeding a very perverse ideology in the name of Islam. They have nothing to do with Islam, and this threat has to be contained globally. India may take initiative, but now the whole world has started acknowledging the kind of threat these criminalized syndicate is posing both people in that territory as well as our mankind again.
Mr. Oja, it is also believed that radicalization is the main breeder of terrorism. It breeds terrorism. What do you say on that?
It is very much known, and only now the world has started acknowledging. But you see the case of Jinnah. This was the worst genocide in the entire record history of mankind, that 1/3 of population was either exterminated or thrown out. There were 15 million people who were in refugee camps, and nearly several million, 10 million or so, they were either killed or they were forced to convert. This is a track record even in Bangladesh. So this has been a terrorist state right from the beginning. But as long as they enjoyed patronage of the West, the whole world was ambivalent. But after 9/11, the world was position, and right now they have quickly shifted their loyalty from West to China. And this has nothing to do with people of Pakistan. We should be the biggest protector of sane people in Pakistan, because the biggest threat people of Pakistan or that territory emanates from the criminalized syndicate that has been ruling that territory, and that has been hoodwinking people over there at one level. At the second level, they have been exploiting this Islamic identity. They have nothing to do with Islam. They have nothing to do with any ideology. This is just a perverse kind of thing. And what they have done, they have poisoned minds of generations of people. And this is going to take few generations to cleanse their mind. So I think, what you're saying, radicalism is the biggest threat. Not only radicalism, each and every dimension of activity of ruling syndicate of Pakistan is a threat to entire mankind.
Okay, Mr. Raza, I come to you. I have noted statements by some activists and political analysts and geostrategic affairs experts also. Many people say that it is actually General Zia who had started this radicalization, and since then Pakistan has changed, and maybe Imran Khan is carrying forward that legacy. What do you say on that?
Look, if we have to have a fair debate, we have to go back into the history of quote unquote radicalism. If you look at radicalism as a subject, it is a much debated subject all over the world. It's strongly circled. First thing that we need to realize is radicalism comes in many shapes and forms. Okay, so there are radicalism regarding ethnic radicalism, there is racist radicalism, there's a history of radicalism as far as as I said, racial radicalism can be seen in the World War II, right? So with the Holocaust and other events that took place, and there have been many genocides that have been motivated by this, whole European kind of racial superiority theory. Then if you look at the contemporary times, you have other forms of radicalism. Jewish groups in Europe are still being targeted. Many Indians are being targeted in Australia. An Australian man killed 50 Muslims in a mosque in New Zealand last year. So we don't want to talk about radicalism without looking at it from a global perspective. Now let's come back to your question and try to address radicalism in the Pakistani context. I believe that, and again, I would, for the sake of this debate, I would acknowledge that there are a lot of people, a lot of scholars, a lot of analysts in Pakistan who even promote to blame Donald Trump for, quote unquote, radicalism in Pakistan. But it is not true. The in society takes decades to, grow and reproduce itself. There are a lot of radical movements across the border in India. There are a lot of radical movements across the border in Afghanistan, and none of that is Pakistan's fault. So as far as Pakistan's own radical problem, obviously Pakistan does have a problem with radicalism, and many of our policymakers and leaders have been willing to acknowledge it and have taken steps to solve it. But I believe that the radicalism in Pakistan is not wholly and solely the fault of the Allah, as many individuals or many analysts, many forces in Pakistan actually like to support and put the blame on one individual, because it is the easiest way out. It is the easiest explanation
but Raza, if I may ask you, many people I have noted. Pakistanis.
If I may finish, let me just go back and just kind of very quickly reflect on what happened in the 1970s when the radicalism in Pakistan really took off with the advent of the Afghan war, with the refugee crisis. We had over 7 million refugees coming into Pakistan, bringing all kinds of ideas and bringing all kinds of
I know Raza, I know that can you hear me? Yeah, I know that history, but we are now talking about the present world. We are talking about the contemporary world. The world is moving towards technology and moving ahead in life. And what I'm trying to ask is, there are people in Pakistan who are, intellectuals and who are concerned Pakistanis, who say that basically it's a nexus between army, all powerful army, and the Maulvis. Army is using Maulvis for their interests, for their agenda. What is your view?
Look, again, if I could name names here, I would say that the person who created this narrative, or is the key promoter of this military versus Mullah Pakistan, is the ex-ambassador to the United States, Mr. Hussain Haqqani, and his wife, who have been advocating this particular. And let me remind you that this is a political theory that the Mullah military, nexus or even clash in certain cases is primary reason for radicalism in Pakistan. Again, let me tell you, I'm not one of them who will believe it, because it's a very simplistic, very narrow-minded narrative. This is not true. This is simply not true. The reason, the realistic explanation of violent extremism is that it comes from a socio-economic political background. So socio-economic political background comes mostly from conflict and wars. So we have to see it in the context of Soviet-Afghan war, and then followed very quickly by the civil war in Afghanistan, and then by the American invasion of Afghanistan. So if you look at the perspective, most of the quote-unquote violence or radicalism is limited to the border region between Afghanistan and Pakistan, where it really has been violent. But for the most part, other parts of Pakistan have been, kind of secure from this kind of activity. Yes, there is radicalism, but it is limited to making statements, and it doesn't really translate it into violence as often as Hussain Haqqani or other people like him like to say. So this is, again, let me repeat it, this is, in my perspective, this is simply not true. It's a very simplistic, very narrow-minded narrative. I believe that the radicalism in Pakistan is directly linked to the warfare that has been going on in Afghanistan for the past 40-odd years, and there has been no respite in violence. If you look at the history from 1979 invasion of Soviet Union all the way up to today, as we are having this conversation, Afghanistan has not seen a single year of peace.
Okay, Raza, Raza, we are running out of time. I want to ask last question to Mr. Oja. Mr. Oja, you heard Mr. Raza, he talks about that Afghan war and refugee crisis, and those things were responsible for radicalization in Pakistan. But many people feel that it was Zia who actually was the main main person who pioneered this. What do you say? Last comment.
Look, this was a natural course of evolution. Of course, Jia took it to an entirely different level, but this was a natural course of evolution. You see what happened in Bangladesh or Eastern Pakistan. When they started demanding certain rights, there was one butcher of Balochistan, Tikka Khan was then. Millions of course, Bengali Hindus and Bengalis were also massacred. So this kind of radicalism, this kind of perversity has been at the very core of creation of Pakistan. Treachery, deceit, brutality. They had tried to rather even now they have fashioned themselves a Mamluki psyche or Khilafat kind of psyche of West Asia, where every kind of deceit, criminality, especially against non-Muslims, is justified, or even against Muslims is justified if they are not on your side. So I would say this was a rogue and criminalized state which was created by the West for its own convenience. West continued to use this state, and of course the power syndicate which was ruling the territory of Pakistan, because they had nothing to do with people of Pakistan. They were rather loyalists of their masters outside Pakistan. They continued to remain so. And what have they done? They have been using Islam and very radicalized version of Islam to crush dissent over there. You should not get, I was not aware of rather details, and I just don't like hyphenating Pakistan, India in any manner, because we are an entirely different country. Highest offices to India has been open to people from minority communities, from Muslims. So we have believed, and our Muslims have believed, that Muslims can live with non-Muslims. If those Muslims who believe they cannot live with non-Muslims, they should not go out of Pakistan. But this has been a Western conspiracy at one point of time. But the West has started acknowledging the kind of monster they have created, because elite of that country has shifted its loyalty to China. So it is nothing that Zia has committed. Zia was again a different breed of person. He has taken the whole thing to a different level. He had nothing to do with Pakistan. Let me tell you, Ajay, people who are ruling Pakistan, who are winning people of Pakistan, they have nothing to do with Pakistan. Pakistan, that territory did very well on HDI parameter, human development parameters in 1950s. This has now been relegated to one of the worst territories. Why? Because a syndicate which is controlling organized crime, radicalism and terrorism, that syndicate has been ruling that territory. We should come up as savior of people of Pakistan, because the biggest threat is from this syndicate and this military establishment. They're constantly raising the bogey of Hindus.
Yeah,
we never went to West Asia. We never went to any territory. So there was saying people, instead of getting some apologists, try to rationalize what's happening in Pakistan in name of some idiot or some stupid who has done something in Australia, for very organized business which is being conducted in Pakistan. You should not get these people. You should get someone who has an open mind, who thinks people over there. Because how can you create a country and maintain it on the basis of hatred? And who are these Pakistani? 90%, 95%, 99% of them are descendants or converts from Hinduism only. So, this is worse than Nazi Hitler ideology, which has for allowed to succeed because West was in.
Okay, Mr. Oja, we have run out of time.
Because now let me conclude. Because now it has started hitting them. This kind of awareness has come. I hope there are some sane people in Pakistan who try to think rationally rather than profiteering out of misery of their own people and converting their own people into bombs.
Right. We hope that there are sane Pakistanis who will rise to the occasion, and there is no comparison between India and Pakistan. But thank you both of you for participating in this debate. This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.